Coach Khabib Nurmagomedov. I don't even know if technically he's his coach anymore, but a guy that taught him pretty much everything he knows inside that octagon. There were rumors for a while that Khabib was going to come back. You're going to fight me if I say 0% chance we ever see Khabib in the octagon again.
Yeah, I am going to fight you. 0% chance is a very low chance. Well, like, look, Conor McGregor put something to the rumors that he, and I know Conor's definitely going to dance on any chance he has to get on Khabib if Khabib owes a ton of money in taxes, but it's not an unheard of thing. I mean, Manny Pacquiao went through a lot of these issues where, Manny Pacquiao owed a lot of tax money. And so, when it was thought his career was going to end, he was going to hang it up. Then all of a sudden, he's got more fights on his hands. He's got exhibition fights on his hands. So, we all said Khabib retired early, probably retired with some more earning in front of him. If they offer him something huge, I don't know, man. I'm not putting it past Khabib to make a return at some point.
I don't think it's about the money. Now, maybe it is now because you talk about some of the issues that he's ran into. So maybe he does come back for the money. What do I know about his personal finances? But when he got out, I should say, it wasn't about the money. Remember, at that point, Dana offered him a ton for a fight to come back. The rumors were like 10, 15 million. I don't know if that was actually true, but he could have got a bag if he would have kept fighting. He would have been the cash cow for the promotion at that point when he was the champion. I just think that Khabib, obviously, he always talks about he made the promise to his mom that he was going to get out, and he honored that. Then his dad passed away. And then on top of all that, he completely cleared out the division. What else was there for him to do? So maybe you're right. And Conor wins, and Conor calls him out in the microphone, and Khabib accepts the fight, and he gets his big payday, and everything is right. But I don't know, dude. I just don't see it. I would be shocked if somehow Khabib ends up back in the UFC.
Seems like I swayed you. 10-9 me.
No, I don't think so. All right, I'll tell you on this. If you get this one right, I've got the answer behind my back. Who's more likely to come back, Khabib or Ronda Rousey?
Khabib.
See, you got it wrong. I'll take the round 10-9. I can see Rousey coming back. She's such an ego on her. Maybe she could end up back in the octagon for a couple of more fights. Nick Diaz is back in the UFC. You're going to fight me if I say his brother Nate should re-sign, I would think, within the next few months, right? Like, he's got to be next in line. When I saw that Diaz was getting in a fight in the UFC, I just assumed that it was Nate and that they lined something up for him. Nate's got to be back pretty soon.
Yeah, it was interesting. I talked to Masvidal a couple of weeks ago, and he had said that there was almost like a wink deal with the UFC that, like, if they allowed Nate and Masvidal to do this, they'll allow them to do these fights, or at least Masvidal. I don't think Nate has to get permission, but Masvidal said if I did it, that he was going to go back for the UFC. So I just think it's natural, that Nate's going to make a return. I don't know how many people are going to be really even into this boxing. I love Masvidal, but I'm not even that crazy about him versus Nate Diaz. Like, I want to see these guys in the cage, and I don't care if it's a UFC cage, a Bellator cage, a PFL cage, but I want to watch them in mixed martial arts, and it makes too much sense. There's too many big fights. Nate's too big a star to not have him come back either.
You confused the hell out of me about a minute and a half ago, real time. I don't know what you were trying to say. So we do agree that Nate will be back. Were you trying to say that Masvidal can end up back also in the UFC?
Yeah, because he was saying that he basically is allowed to do this Nate Diaz fight if he promised to come back. Because remember, Masvidal said he was retired, and now it seems like he's going to make a return at some point, probably the next Miami card. Whenever the next Miami card is down here, I would expect Masvidal's UFC return.
Okay.
I'm not reporting that. I'm just doing logical assumption based on what he told me in an interview 3 weeks ago.
Sure.
But obviously,
I was talking to Masvidal, and he said this.
So obviously, and so obviously, if he's coming back, I obviously think that Nate's coming back. What is Nate got? What he got a Masvidal fight? He got a Jake Paul fight. What else is there? Unless he's just so hard up against the UFC that he wants to go to PFL and fight Jake Paul. I don't really know what else is out there for him.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. We'll get you updated on the Hafez and Mickey Gall fight that just went down in the third. Scores coming up. Sounds like it's going to be at least. It seemed like the Gaul lost the first couple of rounds, but we'll see what the scorecards end up saying. You never know with these UFC referees. UFC 302 tonight. We're breaking it down here on the BetQL Network. Brendan Tobin and me, the sports machine, Sean Levine, trying to make some money together here along the way. Speaking of money and speaking of Conor McGregor, if I gave you $3 million and I said Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor is going to happen at some point in the next 2 years, you're going to bet that it does or does not?
Oh, I'm going to bet that it does. I'm going to bet that it does because I think win or lose for McGregor, I feel like that's the obvious place to go next. You know, like, all right, maybe win.
I wouldn't say
win.
That's not
win. Maybe
obvious.
Win if he loses for sure. It's the obvious place to go. If he wins, maybe they'll put up some fugazi, run to the title for him. But loss wise, yeah, that's the safety net.
So loss-wise, I totally agree. If he loses, that fight's still on the table. And it's to the point with like Nate Diaz, and you mentioned Masvidal and Conor, we don't really care if they win or lose anymore at this point in their career. Like, let's squeeze all the juice out of the orange, right? So it'd be better if it's coming off of a win. But if it's coming off of a win, then the reason I say it's not obvious for Conor is then he could possibly fight Islam for the belt, get the revenge on Khabib, or he could have the biggest fight in the history of the UFC. I don't know what weight they would do it at, but he could fight the Sugar Show. So it's not obvious that his next fight would be against Nate. That's the one I would
that's
the most.
I understand, but that's a big problem that you're bringing up there with the weight. Like, he's fighting Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler's a 155-pound fighter, and they're fighting at 170. Like, it's a big issue. Do we really know that Conor can make that weight anymore? His age, the muscle that he's put on, the injuries, like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's possible for Conor to get down there. So if he's going to fight for a title, I would say the most likely place is he's going to do it at 170. So I don't know that it's likely that Conor is going to get a title shot next, because I don't think that him versus Leon, if Leon were to beat Bilal, is like this sexier matchup than Nate Diaz. If you told me in a vacuum, yeah, he could fight Islam and it'd be at 155 pounds, cool, but I'm not sure that he can do it.
Conor McGregor, the best trash talker of all time. Actually, let me correct myself. The second best trash talker of all time, because we've got the best coming up here in just a little while. Chael's son and Uncle Chael, the American gangster himself, sat down with Brendan Tobin. Apparently, BT, you thought that Chael, we couldn't get too close, huh? I can't let you get too close because you didn't let me in on that interview with you. But it's all good. I'm not bitter about that. Just one of my favorite fighters of all time.
I thought that you said that like the last time you guys got into a beef, or was that with Yoel Romero? I can't keep up with all the people that you.
It was Yoel Romero at the Super Bowl, and it wasn't a beef. We just had a little bit of a language barrier. Chael and I actually had a really fun interaction at the Super Bowl. I walk up to him, and I whisper in his ear, "Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck." And he turns around and he just goes, "That's true." Chael's great.
I think it's crazy that he's going to be boxing in a couple of weeks against Anderson Silva, and then he's going to the Hall of Fame for their fight pretty soon. I don't, it's everybody's boxing. Everybody's out here. Everybody's out there getting into the ring.
Second time, by the way, that you've screwed me on one of my favorite fighters, that you just chose to do the interview on your own. You had on No Love Cody Garbrandt, and you were just like, "Okay, by the way, I had on Cody Garbrandt." So anyway,
all you do is hose down Cody Garbrandt.
Doesn't mean I don't want to talk to him. Yeah, I think he's going to get his ass knocked out every fight he gets in. I win money against him, and I'm usually right. But I still love me some Cody Garbrandt, dude. His fight against Dominic Cruz is one of my 5 favorite fights of all time. Anyway, Chael's son coming up on the show here in just a little while. You mentioned Bilal Muhammad. Bilal said that Islam can go up to 185 and beat DDP right now. And I agree with that. Islam seems like he's one of those guys where if he wanted to in any weight class, kind of like Alex Pereira, that he could have all the belts. You going to fight me?
A lot easier said than done, man. I mean, when Israel Adesanya looked like the most untouchable guy in the world, he went up to try fight Jan Blachowicz and didn't go too good for him. So it's a cute thing to say, but fighting guys who walk around at 230 when you're used to fighting guys who walk around at 180 is a big difference. So I'm not saying maybe he couldn't eventually do it, but remember, Kamaru Usman talked about this for a while too. Like, he wanted to go up to 205 to fight Blachowicz, and never happened. And, it would be a cool thing to show that you could do, but it's a big jump, man. It's a big jump. So I'm not quite sold on that one.
Sean O'Malley once referred to you as the fat guy on the right. I disagree with that. I would say svelte.
And don't.
Right now, O'Malley is the underdog in his fight coming up against Merab. You're going to fight me if I say, I think that's right. At least to pick him. This is a very even fight.
I got to be honest with you, like getting Sean O'Malley as an underdog in this one intrigues me a lot because I am usually used to him, getting the rub in the idea that people like betting on Sean O'Malley. He's a kid's favorite. One of the things that was interesting going to a Sean O'Malley championship fight was the age of all of his fans are very, very young. And that was in a split crowd where there was a lot of Cheeto fans because he had basically all of Ecuador come into the Kaseya Center to root for him. But it was noticeable that anybody that was a Sean O'Malley fan was very, very young. So I feel like he's going to have that for a while. Maybe they're not even old enough to gamble yet. I don't know what the issue is there. But I think with Merab, he's obviously got the noticeable ground advantage that usually will get you the lean in the odds if they think it's a pretty even fight. But there's, Sean's been shutting a lot of people up with his performances. He's looked really, really good. He's looked pretty damn dominant. In his win of the title and his fight over Cheeto, fought Petr Yan when nobody thought that he would do it. So I don't know. There might be some value in Sean O'Malley as a dog that night.
His resume is getting pretty nice. You make a good point, though. Usually you have to pay a pretty penny if you're going to bet on the Sugar Show. If I can get him at underdog money, and he's so popular that at some point he's going to become the favorite, probably on fight night. So get in where you fit in if you want O'Malley money. Chael Sonnen coming up here in just a few minutes on Tapped Out. Speaking of Chael, you're going to fight me if I say, and I wouldn't say this to him, his most memorable fights, pretty much all losses. I was thinking back the John Jones fight, the Anderson Silva fight, the Rashad Evans fight. I mean, he beat some dudes too now, right? Beat up Yushin Okami, beat Michael Bisping. But most of the fights that I remember Chael in, he lost, especially the Silva fight. You going to fight me?
No, I'm not going to fight you. I think that's absolutely. I mean, look, he's going into the Hall of Fame for a loss. I mean, it's the launch of probably everything in his career because, I would say Chael is, and I don't know if this is an insult to him or not, but I would say he's probably no more as a mouth than he is of what he did in the cage. If he would have been able to beat Anderson Silva in that fight, who knows what that does for his career, but to get people the idea of how dominant Anderson Silva was at that time, to even make him look mortal basically over the entire fight before he ends up coughing it up, essentially, it speaks to what that means for this guy to have this kind of staying power in the sport, whether that be as a commentator or whether that be as a fighter. But yes, the record is dicey. The record is dicey, but he knows how to make these rivalries fun and for people to care.
A lot like Nate Diaz. Nobody cares if he wins or loses. They care about what he says. The fights are always fun. Usually he's in them even when he loses. And in the case of Chael Sonnen, if you haven't watched the fight that BT was referring to against Anderson Silva, this is now years ago, Chael beat him up for 4 rounds. I mean, it wasn't even close. And then Anderson Silva wraps his legs around his neck, and eventually Chael taps out. Speaking of tapping out, we got a hockey game later on this evening. I think the Rangers tap out. I think it's all Panthers tonight. You going to fight me?
Wouldn't fight you, man. Been calling cats at 6 from the start. In that tonight at the Amerant Bank Arena, the Rats are going to be flying, and the Cats are going on to their second straight Stanley Cup final.
Will you do that thing where you turn your pool red? And by that thing, I assume that means you've got a red light somewhere in your pool.
Hard to say. We'll have to find out. You have to you'll have to follow me on Twitter tonight and see if it's up there.
Ooh, okay. Looking forward to that. I assume it's not like a bunch of food dye or something, right? That you put in the pool. That can't be good for the skin or the kids or the dog.
It's actually no. It's actually rat blood. That's I have a bag of it just to make the pool look like that. I'm all in. When I'm all in, I'm all in, Sean.
Sounds like it. Rats and cats and 6 tonight. We got fights tonight also. But before all that, how about this? The American Gangster joins us next. Chael Sonnen on Tapped Out right here on the BetQL Network.